or so ago, a woman in one of my workshops shared that as a darker-skinned black ballerina, she felt from early in her training as if something were holding her back. Eventually, she concluded that it was the color of her skin. What might make this young woman feel as if her blackness was disadvantage in her pursuit as a classical dancer? Consider this hypothesis. When we don't see ourselves reflected in the world around us, we make judgments about that absence. Invisibility is a statement. It says something about the world and our place in it. A 2014 MTV study done in a collaboration with David Bender, research found that among millennials, 73% of respondents believe that never considering race would improve society. Unfortunately, despite our dreams of utopic, colorblind planet, this thinking only functions to reinforce body shame. How many times have we heard or said the following statement, I don't see color? Although well-intentioned, not seeing color is ultimately a reflection of our personal challenges around navigating difference. We may be trying to convey how we don't judge people based on racial identity, but color blindness is an act of erasure. Not only does it make invisible all the experiences a person has had that were shaped by their racial identity or color, it implies that to truly respect another human being, we must obscure their areas of differences. Remember that we live in a world of default bodies. The bodies we imagine when we cross the eyes, the default body becomes the template for the normal body. The only reason we would need to erase someone's difference is because we still equate difference with danger or undesirability. When we say we don't see color, what we truly saying is, I don't want to see the things about you that are different because society has told me that they are dangerous or undesirable. Ignoring the difference does not change society, nor does it change the experience. Non-normative bodies must navigate to survive. Rendering difference invisible validates the notion that there are parts of us that should be ignored, hidden, or minimized, leaving in place the unspoken idea that difference is the problem and not our approach to dealing with the difference. Proposing that humans are the same leaves to idea of default body interrogated in our subconscious and firmly in place in our world, forcing all other bodies to conform or to be rendered invisible. In apologetic inquiry number 10, have you ever said any of the following? I don't see color. We are all the same. I don't care if a person is white, black, purple, or whatever. They are playing the race card. Considering this passage, what might you say next time? Adults reinforce the message that difference is bad by encouraging children to workshop to minimize difference or shaming them when they point it out. Diane, one of my workshop participants, recalled an incident in a grocery store when she went to pick up some vegetables for dinner. She encountered a woman and her 4-year-old in this aisle directly in front of Diane's electrical wheelchair. Diane was preparing to ask them to move over so that she could get to the eggplant when the woman's child began to point and squeal. Diane imagined that the child was responding not only to her apparent difference but also to her chair. The child's monotoning and repetition of the phrase "Mama, it's an electric car" suggested that Diane's chair perhaps looked like a toy car to the young child. All this education happened within a few seconds before the humiliated mother scolded the child for pointing and rushed off, never even acknowledging Diane's presence. Diane was disappointed that what could have been a powerful teaching opportunity turned into a mother reinforcing the notion that difference is not to be acknowledged. That child likely left the encounter feeling as if they had done something very wrong by openly noticing Diane. The child also left thinking that electric wheelchairs are toys. Inadvertently, the mother's action conveyed the message that if bodies look different or move differently, we should not acknowledge that difference. The act leaves the idea of default body standing deeply harmful, one that disabled bodies should be ignored. Every message we receive as children tells us something not only about our own bodies but also about the bodies of others. How we treat difference and how we explain it to children can either reinforce the notion of body-based hierarchies or dismantle them. When we explore our assumption about the bodies of others, we are better able to see where our default hinder the full range of human identity. An apological inquiry number 11. Take a moment and think about the story of Diane and the mother and the child at the grocery store. Consider the defaults you may have subconsciously assigned to the people in the story. Did you rationalize them? If so, what races did you make them? Did you give the child gender? Did you assume that the mother and the child were able bodies? Did they have a large or small bodies? The exploration of how we assign default bodies is connected to our origins of body shame and the formation of dreaded should our earliest memories of body shame left us with a sense that something was wrong with us, that our bodies should be different than they were, while consequently being not the same as the other bodies around us. How we decided that our bodies should look like was formed in part by the messages we received. Those messages were transmitted and reinforced by culture, society, politics, and our families. Those messages stuck with us. The website about face.org provides young women with the tools to change media messages that endanger their self-esteem and body image. The site reports that in a study of 112 female undergraduates exposed to thin ideal advertisement increased body dissatisfaction, negative mood, and level of depression, and also lowered self-esteem. About face.org also highlighted a longitudinal study of adolescents that found frequent reading of magazine articles about dieting and or weight loss was associated with weight control behaviors. and other psychological outcomes 5 years later. Confusing and stifling social messages about our bodies and identities transcend gender. Even one of the only handful of male participants in my workshop recalled his first memory of body shame at 8 years old. He took a hard thumble of a merry-go-round at a local playground and scraped his knee badly. Bloody and crying, he ran to his teenage and 20-something cousin who were supervising the smaller kids at the park. They immediately met his tears with a laughter and taunting. The eldest cousin admonished, "Man up, dude. Only CC's cry." Demon was clear that the brief but impactful moment changed him. He shared how he had not cried since he was 8 years old. In those few brief moments, Demon's cousin taught him that man up meant he must ignore both physical and emotional pain to be considered a man. His tears were bad and his pain inconsequential. Culture and familiar messages that reduce masculinity and blend soup of a physical straight and stoic emotional response limit the full range of human expression needed for boys to develop a healthy sense of radical self-love. We call this dangerous idea toxic masculinity, specifically narrative that reinforce masculinity and synonymous with muscles can lead young men to crash diets over exercising, smoking, increased drugs and alcohol use, or even taking dangerous supplements. For demons, it led to years of ignoring his body, avoiding doctors, and masking pain with drugs and alcohol. Demons said having a stroke at 37 was my wake-up call. If this was being a man, I was ready for a new definition. Cultural and social missive about who we are supposed to be and how our bodies are supposed to look are woven into a fabric of our daily lives, and whether we want to admit it or not, this impact our sense of self often for decades of come. They become part of a larger story. Let's return to Kaisha's for a moment. Can we see how the message she received about her hair were cultural, social, and familiar? Keisha recounted this story of shame in a workshop 25 years later. Her voice is still cracked. Asked. I listened as she shared how she had felt unattractive and unlovable for nearly 3 decades. All because of her hair. It was clear that Keisha was moving through the world with her body shame origin story still chewing against the walls in her life. Her still lived in the shame of her story. The question is, in what ways are you? An apological inquiry number 12. How are your early memories of body shame impacting your life today? What do you find yourself doing or not doing as a result of the shame?